Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Vengeful Parrot here from Two True Reviews, bringing you my long-awaited review of Thief, a game for the Xbox One that I am going to be reviewing today. And oh, do I have things to tell about this game. Just to get a few bits and bobs out of the way, this is as delayed as what it has been for a few different reasons. First and foremost, let's see, I ended up having some family visiting. I had 2 job interviews accepted and then started a job all within a week. Got my wisdom teeth taken out, and now this past week I have worked 52 hours. That new job does keep me busy, and unfortunately it is interfering with this, but anybody that has been following my channel for any length of time probably knows that I'm not looking to become the next YouTube star or anything. I'm just doing this because I find enjoyment in it, and I feel like, given that I work in the video game industry, it is always good to examine other games and everything like that, and at the very least, it's a good way to get your name out there if you're looking to get into, like video editing or game testing, that kind of thing, because it kind of shows the wealth of knowledge that you have by reviewing them and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, moving on. So, Thief. A stealth game, that's all about thieving bits and bobs made of gold and silver, and pretty much everything else is useless. Unless you count plaques on important buildings and paintings of half-human, half-animal nude things. So, yeah. It's an interesting game. I haven't played any of the games previously in this franchise, so I can't really compare it at all to those. From what I've heard from other people, Thief 1 and Thief 2 were absolutely amazing. Thief Deadly Shadows is something they don't want to talk about. And then there's this game, which has gotten a lot of mixed reviews, and I kind of am in the middle of all of that. There is a lot wrong with this game, especially when you are looking at it from the standpoint of a stealth game. There's just a lot that shouldn't be wrong, that is wrong, but we'll get more into that a little later on. Now, first thing I wanted to go over real quick are the options, but one specific option, which is the brightness setting. This game is rather dark, and if it is coming through dark on YouTube, I am extremely sorry for that. I don't really have any control over that, and I don't have the time or resources at the moment to take this video, put it on my computer, and do some post-comp editing, adjusting the brightness and that kind of thing. I don't have the time for that. Like I said, I worked 52 hours last week, and that's probably going to pale in comparison to the next month and a half of my life. So, yeah. So what's wrong with the brightness options? Well, you go in here and it just says to adjust the brightness settings on your monitor, which is interesting because this is a stealth game, again. So it's all about sneaking and being in the shadows and all that kind of stuff. And for, I don't know what reason, they decided that they're not going to have an in-game brightness slider. They're just going to make you turn up or down the brightness on your monitor. Now, probably anybody who's watching this video is intelligent enough to know that not every TV or computer monitor operates in the same fashion. Some are going to be darker than others. Some may even be brighter. Some will be more washed out. Others may be a little bit more leaning towards the blue side of things. Some may be a little bit more red or yellow. They all vary greatly, which is why most video games have in-game gamma and brightness adjustment sliders, contrast sometimes as well, all of that kind of stuff. And that is very important if you ask me, because my TV was pretty much perfectly tuned to accommodate all of my other games. I'd set it up so that it was pretty spot on for pretty much everything, and this game, being as atrociously dark as what it is, made me essentially have to turn up the brightness on my TV just to play this game. That is annoying. I, again, don't know why they didn't go with a brightness slider like every other game in the world, but they didn't, and that kind of pisses me off. Anyways, enough about that. So this game is very, very customizable. Everything from the display options for, like what kind of notifications, feedback options, that kind of thing that you can have on your screen, and like difficulty and everything like that. It's very, very customizable, which is pretty amazing. Now, if we go in here to new game, let's just pretend like we were making a new game. There are 3 base difficulties: Rogue, Thief, and Master, and then there's custom difficulty. And that custom difficulty is what I ended up playing through on for my first time through the game. And essentially what the custom difficulty is it allows you to choose your base difficulty, which again is Rogue, Thief, and Master, which is essentially easy, medium, hard. And then you can turn on all of these modifiers that will make the game much, much harder. Pretty much the title on any of these is a huge understatement for anything that could be speculative. Like slowed movement, you might be thinking, okay, I move at maybe like half speed. No, you're moving at like 1/5 speed of what you do in the normal game. Expensive resources, you're thinking, okay, maybe it's like by a factor of 10. Try by a factor of 60. The rope arrows in the base game, like if you're playing on the easy difficulty or whatever, are 14 gold. With expensive resources turned on, they are 600 gold. So there's these really, really do make the game much, much harder. And if you play through the game on master difficulty with all of the difficulty modifiers turned on that I did, which would have been stealth takedowns only, no reticle, specialty arrows only, no poppies or food, 0 damage, expensive resources, slowed movement. I also had no kills or knockouts and no alerts. So this puts me at a total of 720 points for beating the game. And those points really only matter for the online leaderboards and achievements. There is one achievement for beating the game with a 700 point or more total on custom difficulty. And essentially the game I played through was on the hardest difficulty possible. I could not get hurt because of 0 damage. I could not kill or knock out anyone because of this one. I couldn't get seen because of this one. And this one made me move really slow. This made everything super expensive. No poppies or food meant that I could not heal myself or regenerate focus. And the specialty arrows only made it so that I didn't have any deadly arrows, which doesn't really matter since I couldn't kill anyone anyways. And then the no reticle doesn't matter too much because I might show you that later, but essentially if you're actually if you're aiming your bow and you have like you're aiming at like something that you can destroy to knock down a chandelier or whatever, that object will glow white, so you don't really need the aiming reticle. The aiming reticle only comes in handy if you're actually killing people, which again I couldn't do. And stealth takedowns only, I threw that one on to put on some extra points because I couldn't do any takedowns at all, so having that restriction wouldn't necessarily matter. Now, this difficulty setup makes the game entertaining, if you ask me. It makes it so that stealth is your only option, which I would think for a game like Thief would be kind of the default, but apparently not. If you play through like this, there is going to be a lot of stuff that you will miss. There are huge chunks of levels that you cannot get to without knocking out or killing certain guards, or at the very least getting seen. And that's due primarily to the fact of the birds and dogs, which are in cages, and they're basically motion detectors. If you go anywhere near them and move quickly, or in the case of a dog, if you get within line of sight of them, they will start to notice that you're there, and after a certain amount of time they'll start making noise, which alerts the guards, and then if you have the no alerts turned on, you have to start over from your last save. So yeah, Again, if you play through on a difficulty setting like this, there's a lot that you're going to miss, but it is really one of the only ways that you can play through and be forced to play the game like a stealth game. Playing through any way else will end up resulting in, I don't know, kind of a mixed bag. Like, there will be a lot of points where you can go stealth, but it's not necessary. And then there are points where, again, you have to not be stealth. Now, there are going to be a few things that I want to show you, one of which I do have to load up my master difficulty game, and then the others I will be playing through on this second game that I have here that is on the rogue difficulty. Now, as you can see, the master difficulty with all those modifiers took me almost 25 hours to complete, and I have not collected all the collectibles, but that's primarily because I can't. Some of the collectibles, again, are in spots that I can't get to without knocking someone out, killing them, or getting seen. So, yeah. If you want to get all the collectibles, you're going to want to play through on something where you can at least be seen or, kill or knock someone out, that kind of thing, because it's impossible to get all the collectibles otherwise, which basically means if you want to get a platinum a trophy or achievement or whatever, if you want to get all the achievements in this game, then you will have to play through at least twice. I can guarantee that. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and skip through to the part that I want to show you some examples of. Alrighty, so here I am on my master difficulty game, and I'm in this nice little alcove here, and there is a guard that will end up coming up that alleyway there, and he is patrolling with a torch. And this particular guard is a prime example of one of the things wrong with this game, and it is especially just infuriating that it happens because this is a stealth game. Because essentially, as you can see, the torch emits, like a nice area of effect sort of light, and that light will actually penetrate walls. Like this wall right here, as you can see, there is a torch on that wall, and the light is not coming through on this side of the wall. Now this guard is going to come up here and then go over that way, kind of where that guy is, and then wrap back around this way and pass fairly close to this wall, and the light will pass through it. Now, this wouldn't be too big of a deal if it didn't actually affect your character. However, the light coming through the wall does actually light you up and essentially reveal your position. Didn't mean to do that. Anyways, so that's kind of a problem because there will be areas where, like let's say you're hiding around the corner or something from this one guy, and like let's say this window right here, let's say that was another guard. Well, when this guy passes on the other side of the wall with that torch, it will light me up, and then that figurative guard right there would end up seeing me. And that did actually end up being a problem a few times for me. Now, see right there in the lower left, that white circle, and now it's black, that is your light gem. It essentially tells you whether or not you're lit up, and as you can see, when the guard walked by the wall, I lit up, and yeah, it's a little bit of a problem. The fact that the light detection and light emission in a stealth game is off is a very bad thing. That is something that game companies have been getting right for a very, very, very long time, and there is absolutely no excuse for Square Enix to have made that mistake this time around. At least I believe it was Square Enix that made this. Yeah, it was Square Enix and Eidos. So same people behind the Deus Ex game, Human Revolution, from last generation. So yeah, there's that has been right for a long time and they got wrong. And then there's also this. That like 2001, I'm barely pushing forward, but my walk cycle is still the same crap. Yeah, last time that was a thing was back when the original Halo was out. And as an animator, and I know it's not just the animators that take part in this is a huge, just infuriating pet peeve of mine. Like, if you can't get a walk cycle right when they're walking slowly, then what else about the game is not right? Well, in terms of the Thief, there's a lot of it. I'm going to go ahead and jump to my lower difficulty game now. Alright, so here we are in my lower difficulty game, and I'm just going to stand here for a moment, maybe assuming these guys don't continue yammering on. If they do, I'll move. But there are a few things I want to touch on before I get going with moving around and all that kind of stuff. So the absolute worst part about this game is the sound design. Everything about it is wrong. There are an innumerable amount of flaws with the sound design in this game. The music is okay at best. Some of it isn't very fitting, like at all. The music that you hear at the main menu is probably the best music in the entire game. The rest of it is like some sort of odd mix between like classical and techno, and it just doesn't fit the mood of the game at all, if you ask me. Now, as far as the rest of the sound design, sometimes sounds can carry a little bit far. They can go through walls or entire buildings. So you may be a block and a half away from those patrolling guards, but guess what? You're going to hear their conversation like you're standing right next to them, because why in the world would we want to make sense with that kind of thing? Now, there are also a lot of sounds that, if you're playing with surround sound setup, or maybe a gaming headset or something with surround sound enabled, that just don't seem to come from the right spot. Like, this guy is kind of like at a forward left. Even if I do this, like, I am still getting a full sound on like both sides of me. I mean, it mainly really only happens if like let's see, if we go down here to Basso, he's essentially your main fence in the game. If you talk to him,
sorry Garrett, no jobs at the moment.
Like his voice is coming from my left right now.
But I'll keep my ear to the ground.
Like all the way to my left, like as if he's standing like over here, kind of to my left. And he's also super, super quiet.
Sorry, Garrett, no jobs at the moment. There's no work for black hands now. Come see me later.
Now, that wouldn't necessarily be too terribly annoying if the rest of the game were matching. Because I mean, like I said, there will be conversations that you can be a block and a half away from and you will still hear perfectly fine, which is super, super annoying. Now, that, as if it wasn't bad enough, is really only the tip of the iceberg. The sound, as I just showed you, isn't very balanced at all. Some conversations will have one voice that is like right up next to you, and then the other voice sounds like they're, down the street and whispering. And even though those guys are literally equidistant from you as a character, their voices are set at completely different volumes, and it just doesn't make any sense. That mainly happens when you're looking through keyholes or holes in the wall or something, and you're like spying in on a conversation. One dude who's only like 2 feet away will sound as if he's right next to you, and the guy that's 3 feet away will sound as if he's on the other side of the freaking building, like trying to scream through the brick walls at you. So, yeah, I don't know. There's that. There sometimes sounds will get reversed. So, like some dude will be on your right, but it sounds like he's on your left. And that is really troublesome when it is patrolling guards and you're listening for footsteps. You're like, oh, the footsteps are on my right, so I should be able to go left and no problem, and then you run right smack into the guy that you were trying to avoid in the first place because the sound isn't coming from the right spot. There are dead zones for sounds, so like all ambient sound with the exception of music will die in these dead zones. All footsteps, all character conversations, everything will go completely silent in these dead zones. And I found multiple dead zones. Like, it wasn't just like a fluke and I found one. No, like they were in pretty like it isn't even like they were in hard to get to spots. Like there are places that you can hide in the game. So, if you get spotted, you like run over and like climb inside of these little closet things, and then you're hidden, and theoretically they won't find you. Assuming no one saw you go in there in the first place. But because those some of those dead zones existed in and around those closets, which again makes it very hard to determine whether or not you are in trouble or anything like that. So, yeah. The scripted dialogue of patrolling guards will sometimes repeat and or get stuck. So, of course, it would make sense if the conversations would loop. It's like maybe it's a 30-second conversation and every 2 minutes it loops or whatever, right? That would make sense. Like, I would be okay with that. But sometimes it will literally be once the conversation ends, like the instant it ends, it starts over. Or, the more annoying of the two problems, the conversation will start, and let's say it's a 5-line conversation between two guards. It's like, hi, hello, how are you? I'm good. Once the second guard says, I'm good, the entire conversation would start back over and continue at the same time. So you essentially have two of the exact same dialogue loop playing at the same time. And I had to experience that way more often than what is acceptable. Again, it wasn't like an isolated thing. It happens all the time. And it's not even like it does it once so that you only have 2 dialogue loops playing at the same time. No, it happened. There was one time I was in an area and there were literally 4 of the exact same dialogue loop playing at the same exact time. I'm sure you can only imagine how annoying that is. Now, let's see. What else was there with that? There's some cutscenes where the music completely drowns out everything else, including the dialogue, which makes it a little hard to pay attention to the story. The only reason I knew what was going on sometimes is because I had subtitles turned on. And even then, it was just kind of like well, I'm pretty sure that's what he said, but I could totally be wrong. Because the subtitles are pretty bad as well. More often than not, you will find that the subtitles are actually 2 to 3 lines ahead of the spoken dialogue, so it's a little hard to follow. And again, with the cutscenes, sometimes there are other sound effects, like let's say a bridge collapsing or something like that will completely drown out the music and the dialogue. So sometimes it's not just the music that's drowning everything out. Other times it's sound effects and all that kind of crap. It's just, anyways. The entire sound design, like, as a whole, is completely awful. Like, I have seriously seen better in, like, no-budget indie titles. Like, I mean, I worked on an indie title for a very, very long time now. And we have no budget because we are working off of fan rights, and we have better sound design. Anyways, enough about that. So, sound design is awful. There are plenty of other glitches as well that make the game rather difficult. This right here is a glass bottle. Come on, you're not gonna. Where? Oh my goodness. Okay, well, he should be pulling it up, but he's not, because he's special. This is Garrett, ladies and gentlemen. So, let me fast forward through this transition, because the loading screens contain spoilers. Yay! Okay, so as I was saying, hey, there you go. You pulled out the glass bottle. You passed second grade. Good boy. All right, so this is a glass bottle. You can throw it, and it will essentially create a distraction. The guards will go over to that area, and then you can, sometimes slink by them. It's super handy if you're trying to do a real nice stealth playthrough. But the thing is that if, let's say, you die or something and you have to reload, sometimes that glass bottle will disappear. It will just be gone. And unfortunately, they are never around when you need them. They'll be like at the beginning and at the end of a level, or out in the open world, as it were, but they are never like sitting on a shelf or something when there's a extremely difficult patrol to pass or anything like that, which doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But yeah, sometimes those will disappear, and as you can see, sometimes you just plain can't pull it out when you want to, so that's always fantastic. But that could have been with the area that I was in. I don't know. I haven't exactly tested that. Anyways, so yeah. I don't know. I mean, the entire game is just... It's on par in most areas. Like, it's okay, but it's not amazing. Most other areas, it falls short. Extremely short. Including, but not limited to, voice acting and animations. Garrett, anytime he's talking to anyone other than himself, sounds like he's gargling gravel and broken glass. It's pretty much as if you were taking voice lessons from Christian Bale's Batman. It's the equivalent of like, what's going on? It's like, I'm sorry, what? Did you like swallow a dying cat? Like, what's going on? Yeah, I don't know. It's bad. I don't know why pretty much everyone thinks that dark and gritty needs to sound like you're dying. It doesn't make any sense to me. I've never understood why people do that, but they do. And there's not really much of anything I can do about it. So, yeah. Can I see that pillar from here? Or not pillar, pulley. Nope, can't find it. Oh well. I was going to try and show you what I was talking about with the aiming reticle. Anyways, so... yeah, the quests in the game, like the side quests, are, again, okay. There's nothing too amazingly fantastic about any of them. There are really only a handful of them that are actually meaningful, and the rest are just kind of like, Basso, the guy I was talking to earlier, he will give you a lot of random side quests. Like, these two right here are just some of the side quests he gives you. And essentially, it's a, hey, go here and take this item. And the only amount of story they have is this right here. This little short blurb telling you what you're stealing and from who. So, yeah, that's cool. The only other side quests in the game will come from this guy up here, Ector, and someone else in the Riverside district that is like off over this way. That guy's name is Vittori, I believe. He was mentioned right here. Yeah, Vittori. And those side quests actually have a little bit of story to them, but again, it's nothing like super amazingly detailed. Like, it's nothing that you're going to be like, all right, I can't wait to do that next quest. And even the ones that you get from Ector, which I thought were going to at the very least end interestingly, they don't. Like, you complete the final quest and he's just like, oh, thanks, everything's good now. Which is completely anticlimactic, if you ask me, but, whatever. So, yeah, most of the quests are, average. Like, again, there's nothing super amazing about any of them, which is, again, super disappointing. Because there's just... not enough here in the main quest, I feel, to justify having the open world. All the side quests, again, are just very short, little, like, quick, go here, do this, yay, you're done, kind of things. And there's no sort of enthralling, intriguing elements to them at all, which is, again, very, very disappointing. Now, the best part about this game is gonna have to be the main story. It is very intriguing. However, I don't honestly feel it's intriguing enough to merit purchasing the game at full price. And that's just simply because the story is good, but it's not exactly... Why can't I find the switch? It's not exactly what you would expect from a stealth game. It ends up having this very odd fantasy twist to it. I'm not going to get too much into it, but long story short, it takes a very kind of odd twist. What in the world? Alright, so just so you guys know, this blue vision thing is your focus vision. It essentially makes it so that you can see anything that is interactable, and it doesn't appear to be helping me at all with this painting. There's supposed to be a switch behind this thing. Unless it's... Yep, looks like it's under the desk. There we go. Button. And there we go. So, yeah. Focus vision. Super cool. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, the main story, getting back on track, is okay. I mean, it doesn't have anything super enthralling about it, but it's good enough that I would say it's probably worth a playthrough if you're looking for a solid single-player experience on your next-gen console. Or, I guess, as I should say, current-gen console. And that's just simply because there aren't very many single-player games out there at the moment. There are plenty of multiplayer games. You know, you got Battlefield 4, Titanfall, Call of Duty. We have a new Call of Duty coming out this, November, I think. There's obviously, you know, games like Destiny and everything coming out soon. There are plenty of sports games and all that kind of crap, but there's very, very, very few solid single-player games, and this is one of them. The game has a lot of extremely glaring flaws, and if you're just absolutely dying for a single-player experience, or if you're just positively dying for something not, you know, your traditional kind of run-and-gun, multiplayer experience, then this would probably be a good game for you, because I mean, again, it does have, you know, a lot of interesting... Yeah, I knocked these guys out earlier. It does have a lot of interesting things that happen in the main story, and that kind of thing. But again, with all of the flaws in the sound design and just overall as a whole, there are so many flaws that if you are the kind of person that cannot look past all of that, you're not going to have a fun time. See, this right here is the little, like, hiding closets that I was talking about. And you have a very limited field of view while you're in these, so I'm sure you can understand how it would be a problem if you couldn't hear the footsteps of patrolling guards. Anyways, so... Ooh, I get to show you now. Okay, so just real quick before we wrap everything up, where's the switch? I know it's around here somewhere. I probably have to hit it from the other side. I just wanted to show you what I was talking about with the aiming and how it lights everything up a nice white color. Alright, so right down there behind the candles is a switch. And that switch I'm going to hit with a blunt arrow. Now, as you can see, it's perfectly normal right now, but now that I'm aiming at it, there's kind of like a white glow to it. See? Normal, white. Normal, white. So you can see how you wouldn't really need to have the aiming reticle turned on if you were playing through this game in like complete stealth mode. Now, if you wanted to kill people and that kind of things, then you would need it because it doesn't highlight, you know, enemies when you're aiming at them and that kind of thing. Anyways, so yeah, like I was saying, this is a very solid single player experience, but it's nothing that I would say that you absolutely have to play. If you are interested in a solid single player experience for, you know, your brand new Xbox One or your PS4 or PC, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're positively bored of multiplayer, you need a new single player experience, I'd recommend picking this up, but I would recommend doing so at a discount. The game at this point I have seen at several retailers for below full price. GameStop, I believe, has it for I think $40 for a brand new copy, $30 if you buy it used. Normally, I don't condone purchasing used games because I do believe that it is bad for the gaming industry as a whole. But this is one of those games that I would honestly make an exception for. It's good, but not great. There's enough bad about it that I can see how a lot of people would regret their purchasing decision. So, yeah, that's really all I'm going to say about this. There's plenty more that I didn't say, but that stuff is going to be the biggest, most glaring flaws in the game. So if none of that sounds too terrible to you, then you may want to consider going out and picking this game up. That's about it. Again, as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to drop me a private message or, put it down below in the comment box. And, yeah, this has been Vengeful Parrot, signing off.